Hello, and welcome back to the Healing Motherhood Podcast. I'm Alexis, and I'm so happy you're here. Today, we are talking about connecting through your birth trauma, rebuilding intimacy after a little bit of disconnection due to birth trauma, having a new baby, early postpartum can all breed disconnection, but the beautiful thing is we can also use it as a catalyst for rebuilding intimacy. Today, I'm going to share with you just how we can do that. So the first thing that I want to focus on is communication. Communication is something that many of us are not taught in school, even if we've gone to college and maybe taken a Communication 101 class where we do learn that active communication is more like talking to the person, having them repeat back, listening, checking for understanding, right? This should be this very flowy back and forth kind of, are we speaking the same language, checking in kind of thing, right? But when you're hungry and tired and the hormones are flowing, it can turn into a pretty toxic situation. At least in my house it could. So let's talk a little bit about communicating your feelings effectively. First off, if you are in the throes of postpartum, you're in those first couple years, grab the free tool in my link down below. There is an awesome communication guide in there to help you communicate with your partner, with your family members, with your medical support team, with your emotional support team. It's a great tool, if I do say so myself, for communicating clearly what your needs are so that you can start to reconnect with the people that you love and want to communicate with. So the next part of this communicating effectively is expressing your feelings, which can be really hard in a society that feels more comfortable shoving down emotions than letting people feel them, right? So when we are sharing our feelings, it's really important to take ownership of your own feelings. I feel blank when this happens. A good resource for effectively communicating your feelings, anything that you are upset with, anything that you're wanting to problem solve, would be the books Nonviolent Communication or Conscious Communication. And those two things can really help you to really be clear about what you're communicating with your loved ones about and to keep your conversations moving towards connection versus disconnection, okay? So I am covering these quick, but this is just really a bird's eye view of the tools that can help with connection. The next part is rebuilding intimacy. So this one I might spend a little bit more time on. When we have experienced a traumatic event, and particularly as we are talking about birth trauma, our brain, if you haven't caught the way that birth trauma impacts the brain, go back to the impacts of birth trauma and then come back to me here. The way that birth trauma impacts the brain is that it puts our brain on high alert. It feels like there is danger everywhere. And that might include conversations with our partner. That might include physical interactions with our partner, right? So our first step has to be to create a safe environment within the relationship. And that means, explaining to your partner, when I express this feeling, I need you to express empathy. And maybe you're showing them the Brené Brown video on empathy. Maybe you're teaching them about the way that Eeyore's friends in Winnie the Pooh express empathy and just sit with him in his sadness. They don't try to fix it or change him, right? Empathy is saying, oh yeah, you get to feel those feelings. Those are big feelings and they're yours, and it's okay for you to feel that. You get to feel that. I'm not going to force you out of it. I'm not going to tell you they don't make sense. Even if they don't make sense, it doesn't matter because it's what you're feeling, right? And so it's starting there and kind of saying, look, here are some resources. Here's how I need you to empathize with me when I'm feeling this way. And that can start to help to rebuild the safety, because without safety, you can't go anywhere. It has to start with safety. It has to start with non-judgment, non-reactivity, right? We have to feel safe to share how we're feeling, safe to be as slow as needed when it comes to intimacy, because our bodies have just experienced this massive shift. And if there was birth trauma involved, that's a whole nother layer, right? And there's, moments that feel violating. There are moments that feel dehumanizing, and it takes a while to feel safe again, especially if our birth trauma brain is giving us alarms at every little thing. So one good thing that I really love to kind of talk about is building safety within our own selves. So I think I talked a little bit about the communication guide already. It's in the free course in my link, but there's also tools to find safety in your body in that. Okay, so safety first before this next suggestion, but start rebuilding safety within your relationship. And it doesn't have to be super intimate, right? It can be super surface level things. And so I'm just going to let that stand on its own. So I know this was a short one. This was a brief overview, but really this is something that needs the support real time of a professional, whether that is your mental health practitioner, whether it is your pelvic floor PT, your pelvic OT, a coach, someone like me, a relationship coach, a relationship therapist. Some kind of support system is really vital when you're working with this, especially after trauma. So this is like the bare bones, but there's already a lot of rabbit holes to go into with the resources that I've shared in this video itself. So go through some of that. If you have questions, reach out to me, drop a comment. If you fill out and start on that course, you'll immediately have my email address, and then I'm happy to support you in whatever way you need at this time. So thank you so much for tuning in. I believe that you are so deserving of the relationship that you want, and I believe that you can build it, and I believe that healing is the way. Thank you. See you next time.